Hi, I'm here with you today. I wanted to show you the quilt that I've just finished making. And since I was stuck at home for about 4 days, I thought I may as well quilt this myself. I normally bring it in to Jennifer or give it to one of the other long arm quilters, but I thought I can do it. I can do this one. So this was the Adidas Sitar quilt that was done over the course of about 2 weeks, and every day you did either 4 or 8 blocks, and then you at the very end you sewed them together. They were all sewn together in rows, and this made it ideal for doing this baffling your quilt method. It's a wonderful quilt as you go technique because it allows you to work with just one section at a time, and so that when you're quilting, you're not putting the whole quilt underneath your machine. You're only putting it in sections. So when I was doing this quilt, I sewed together, of course, I sewed together all my blocks in each row. So I had 10 rows. Then I joined my blocks or my rows together in rows of 2, so that I would have 5 sets now of 2 rows. I did the same with the back. I made 5 strips. So we can see I've got my strips are going this way, and I've got 5 strips. My fabric wasn't quite long enough, so I added a little piece at each and just kind of randomly chunked in a piece of fabric so that now my strip would be just as long as the strip for the front of the quilt. I did the same thing with my batting. I cut strips of batting that were the width of each of those sets of strips, and then I was able to start quilting. So I start by layering my row. So we'll say that this is my row, and we're going to layer it with the batting and the backing piece. It's kind of hard to show that part of it, so you know what, maybe we'll skip over to the border part. I've done all my rows, and this would be the exact same way that I did my rows. I'm going to take my border piece and I'm going to lay it on my quilt so it's nice and even at one end, even at the other, or if it overhangs a little bit, that's okay. And then I'm going to take my backing piece and do the same thing. So now I've sandwiched my backing and my front piece, and my quilt is now in the middle. I'm going to take pins. I love my magnetic pin hole because my pins are going to be right where I need them. And I'm just going to pin all the way along, just making sure that all of those raw edges are nice and even. So I'm going to pin, 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 pin. And for the sake of time, I won't pin all the way across. I'm just going to put one more pin in there. And then once I had that whole row pinned, I would then sew this. So sew it your 1/4 inch, just your regular seam allowance, and then you're going to flip it back. So you can flip both of those ones back. Let's start with the back piece first. We'll flip that back, and I press it. So I'm just going to press it from the back. Then I'm going to get my batting. I'll just grab my piece of batting here. So my batting is the same width as my strips. I'll put a bit of spray. Love this Perfect Base spray. Just put some of that spray. Again, you'd spray that all the way down. And now you can lay your batting in there. Your batting is just going to kind of snug up to your seam allowance. Press that down. Now you can take your front piece. This is all stitched. You're just going to take your front piece, take a bit more spray, pull that down, smooth it all out. I like to press it really well at this point and do that all the way along your whole border piece. My piece is stuck there. So do that all the way along. Now you're ready to take this to the sewing machine. And now when you're sewing, I'll just kind of pull this apart here. And when you're sewing this, the only part that's going to be under your machine is that part that you've just added. So that now you can do your quilting in here. You can do some straight lines, you can do wavy lines. I just did some diagonal lines just within each row. And when you look at the back of the quilt now, you can see that I've done those diagonal lines, but you really can't see where I stopped and I started for each row. So it's a really neat technique, and it doesn't take long to do. Perfect if you want to try one on a baby quilt. It's a great way to start. This is baffling your quilts. Thanks.